Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Jim's Record Party. I'm your host, James. I'm so glad you could be with us today as we do something a little different and examine the present state, future state of two of the great rock bands of all time, ex-members of whom are touring now or touring incessantly. Let's open with three quotes. The great Robert Schumann, composer and pianist of the 19th century. The masses want the massive. The Rolling Stones, it's only rock and roll. And John Lennon, how do you sleep at night? The tours of Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr continue. If you've seen the footage of those, it's pretty hard to miss. They're big showbiz extravaganzas, especially the Paul McCartney tour, which looks like the last tours he did, only the video monitors seem to be getting much, much larger as the audiences are farther away and he's just a speck in the distance. You spend I'm sure, hundreds of dollars now. And what you're really doing is watching Paul McCartney on television. It's the concert experience. You're out with your friends. You like to go somewhere you can drive and have a lot of difficulty parking and getting back to your car. I understand that. We all like to do that. Ringo Starr touring with his all-star band, in which he plays and sings and plays a lot of other people's music because he has guest stars on. I'm not sure if Todd Rundgren is still leading that band. Steve Lukather, many great players. He swaps in and out. The thing I find most interesting with Ringo is that as he's been a sober Ringo now all these years, as we've learned to see and hear the sober and distinguish the sober Ringo from the drunken Ringo of past. I kind of preferred the drunken Ringo. I find the sober Ringo to be a little hard-headed and a little too much for me. A little too much of a, he's been there, he's done that, he's Ringo Starr. But I'm not finding really any friendliness in Ringo these days. The Rolling Stones are out. I think they're out right now. I think they're out today as we tape this. And that is to say, two of the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. I believe Bill Wyman has joined that tour. Of course, Ron Wood is playing guitar with them. And I'm not sure who's filling the drum seat now that we've lost Charlie Watts. The Stones tour, the footage I've seen, the few minutes of concert footage I've seen, looks like footage we've seen from the past. Looks a lot like the Steel Wheels tour. Some I've seen, if it's the current tour where Mick is prancing around the stage doing his cock of the walk with Lady Gaga in the same poses exactly that he performed on the Steel Wheels tour with one of the beautiful backup singers. Which brings me to the crux of this whole episode and the story and the question: is it comfortable for us to be listening to men now in their 80s, most of them, singing and doing the same thing, the same tunes, the same act they were doing when they were 18 years old? I don't think it is. And we've just seen some headlines with Britney's autobiography and people commenting on her Arrested Development and Taylor Swift's quote that celebrities are forever frozen at the age at which they become famous. I'm paraphrasing both of these, of course. And while that may be true for some, I think it's much more that celebrities just keep on doing the same old act that they first found fame and fortune with until they stop putting seats in the concert hall. And that's pretty much what McCartney and Jagger and Richards are doing, it appears. I'm not comfortable with these men doing the same old tunes, the It's Only Rock and Roll and the Street Fighting Mans. 80-year-old men, that is not their life. And that's not Jagger and Richards' life either, two of the wealthiest men in the world, certainly. Coddled, comforted. They know no discomfort whatsoever. I think it's unbecoming for a gentleman to be doing the same act in his 80s or in his late 70s as he was doing when he was a teenager and when he was doing his first great tours when he was in his 20s. And I beseech both of those men and Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr as well, all four of these gentlemen, to look in the mirror and give us their adult statement of the world. Yes, Mick's feet have never touched the ground since Can't Get No Satisfaction. He knows little of the world that most of us live in, I would argue, and may have nothing of value to say about it. But I would encourage all four of them to seek an adult statement to leave us. And we would all welcome that. I would hugely welcome that. Paul, Ringo, Mick, Keith, please give us that adult statement. Leave us with something more than just another 3-chord rock and roll song. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Jim's Record Party. I'm your host, James, everyone. Thank you for being with us as we've kind of kvetched a bit on the Beatles and the Stones. I hope you'll join us next time as we look at more great records here on Jim's Record Party.